Yo, how's it going everyone? Welcome back to another video. Now, if you wasn't aware, Destin yesterday did a live stream trying to, I guess, damage control, bring back, because he got a lot of flack for his video. We covered it in my stream. If you haven't seen it, go check out my opinion. I did actually get on to a live call with him and told him my personal opinion as to why I think that Xbox is being mistreated and whatnot. And it was actually an interesting discussion, and one day he finally understood that he wasn't in the best place to tackle. So if you do find this video useful, as we discuss the Xbox tax, what happened yesterday, and just the general perception of people and how they view things, do consider leaving a like. Let's set that 350 like challenge. Let's see if we can smash that. If you haven't yet subscribed, do consider subscribing. We are trying to hit that 6,000 milestone, but 7.5k by the end of the year. So hopefully we can get to that goal. It would mean the world to me. And of course, if you want to support the channel further, you can do that through my Patreon. You can join my YouTube membership. And of course, there is always the super thanks. But simply liking and dropping a sub goes a long way, and it's free. You can't get better than that, right? Right, so let's discuss what this Xbox tax is. So I know a lot of media right now are struggling to figure out what this Xbox tax actually is. Destin yesterday was talking about what is this Xbox tax, because I don't understand what it is. And we had a number of callers in yesterday on his stream who basically tried to outline to him what it was, and some of it he accepted, some of it he didn't. But I think the one that finally kind of rang home was the one where people turned around and said, you're not in a position to be able to answer this. You can't speak for your colleagues, you work for the company, and at the end of the day, you can't say anything bad about them. That's the bottom line. You cannot, because if you do, your job will be affected. And as such, you yourself have an unconscious bias, because you can't really speak your mind. You have to be wary because you work for the company. Even when certain names were thrown out, he had to be very cautious about what he said, because that's the parent company of the company he works for. So it's really difficult. So the fact that he actually wanted to do this, I mean, it's good that he wanted to have that discussion, but it was also very kind of misplaced. It's not for him to do this. It's for other people to do this who are not connected to the media, for them to come sit down and have that discussion and then try and see where things are at. And then the media can then look in and say, right, maybe we have, without realizing, we have been doing this and this is where we're wrong. But the reality is, there is a bias going on. And we proved that yesterday. The one that came up that was, I think, the best one was when we were talking about the Xbox Live Gold price increase, and how, you know, the media went on a complete tirade. It was like a complete stampede, right? Every media for a number of weeks, even after it got reversed, was still talking about it. How Microsoft tried it and failed and all this and all that. And IGN must have released at least 5 or 6 articles regarding this. And, you know, Destin said, but a good change came from that, right? They reversed their decision, so what's the problem? And it was at that point where either he was completely ignorant to the fact, or he was part of the problem. Now, I can't tell, because I don't think Destin is a stupid guy. I think he's actually extremely intelligent. He knows what he's talking about, right? Let's get this off. He knows what he's talking about, right? He's a very smart person. So I don't want to think that he was playing, you know, I don't want to think that he was dumb, because that's just not right. But I think he was feigning ignorance. But maybe let's give the benefit of the doubt. Let's give the benefit of the doubt and assume that he was actually not seeing the big picture. So they raised the issue. Well, when Microsoft did this, we had 2-3 weeks of articles. It didn't stop. Everyone remembers this. But when Sony raised the prices in some countries up to 500%, like in Turkey, and I know Turkey's got a weird economy going on right now, but the fact is the PlayStation whole trilogy went up in price. There was maybe 1 or 2 articles, and then the topic was dropped. No one cared because it belonged to Sony. That's it. That's it. You know, when it's an Xbox issue, it drags on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they will batter it and batter it and batter it until the news is dead because it's not generating any more clicks. But when it comes to a Sony issue, that is not the case. It just doesn't happen. They talk about it once, maybe twice, and that's it. Look at the Activision Blizzard case. How, you know, even after the deal went through, there was articles for weeks talking about how this was bad and all this and what's going to happen. And, you know, Sony's being sued by the CMA. There's one article, maybe two. Who's talking about it? Where's the coverage? It's a big deal. They have a monopoly. They have been screwing their, fan base over. Where's the coverage for this? There is none. But if it was Xbox doing this, had the tables been reversed, this would have been front page news on every single media outlet out there. Now, to say that there is no bias is not real. And what the media now is trying to do, because if there was no thing as an Xbox tax, right? And let's just use both words here. Xbox bias, Xbox tax. Why is the media so hell-bent in trying to change the narrative that it doesn't exist? Why is the media so hell-bent on this? And yesterday, Nibs actually came on as well, and obviously he agrees with Destin. Of course he's going to agree with Destin. He's a PlayStation-centric person, so having him on there was kind of, a bit stupid, in my opinion. But we're looking at this, right? And he came up and said, Xbox tax is a term largely used by folk projecting their own deep biases or lack of subjective rationale, which then manifests as unfounded persecution, complex and conspiracy, easily disproven with factual statistical evidence. See below. Forza Motorsport 8085. It could have got higher. Starfield 7083. It could have got way higher, right? The front one is what IGN gave, and that's the Metacritic. IGN gave it a 7, Metacritic is an 83. I mean, there was 4s, 3s in there on the Metacritic score. If this was a PlayStation game, it would never have received those 3s and 4s. Minecraft Legends, I think, is fair. Forza Horizon 5 Rally Adventure, fair. Redfall, I mean, they gave it a 4 out of 10. I would say that's fair. If they look at it now, probably different. But if you look at the games that got highly reviewed, none of those will ever get Game of the Year, right? Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush. I mean, these are great games. Hi-Fi Rush could have got nominated. It's not going to win, though. And then you got As Dusk Falls. It's never going to win Game of the Year. This one had the potential. Forza Horizon, never going to win Game of the Year. This actually got a 9 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10 on PlayStation, but a 7 on Xbox. It's exactly the same game. Deathloop, 100% is on PlayStation. The Xbox version got an 8 out of 10. So, as you can see here, Microsoft Flight Simulator is never going to win Game of the Year. So the games that are actually getting rated really high are games that will never win Game of the Year, like Grounded. It's just not going to win Game of the Year. They're good games, but they're not pushing the boundaries of what is there. They're not innovating in ways that they should. Games that are doing that are not getting the reviews that they want, right? But I digress, because we've also got Joker here, who's talking about fancy way of saying Xbox fans forgot gaming journalists, a lot of which are failed real journalists, are bad at games. It's got nothing to do with that. The simple fact is, journalists and influencers, influencers like myself, have at least my channel's too small right now to have any form of impact. But if we're looking at the likes of Asmongold, right, or the Tectones, they have a huge influence in the media, right? They have it in the towards their community. If they say a game is crap, their community is going to follow suit. And the example I want to use is, of course, Forspoken. Now, Forspoken may have launched in a pretty shoddy state, but the developers worked hard to make it right, at least on PC anyway. PlayStation was generally okay for me. The demo was horrendous, right? Let's get that out of the way. The demo was just garbage. But the overall actual game was actually really good, and I actually really enjoyed it. But the media smashed that game so hard, the influencers smashed that game so hard, that the studio shut down. So Square Enix shut the studio down. So to say that the media doesn't have any power over this, which is what Paris was trying to say, is wrong. They absolutely have power. But now going back to the original topic of this whole Xbox tax, whether it should be called an Xbox tax or an Xbox bias is unknown. I think that it's the term tax that people are finding difficult to comprehend. It's the term tax that they're finding hard to understand. But then if you throw the word bias in there, then they lose their freaking minds and start saying, well, what are we being biased about? But there's so much there. When Destin was confronted with, why did your social media team find the need to tweet around 10, 12, 15 times that the Elder Scrolls 6 is not coming to PlayStation 5? Like, why? I mean, we understood it from the second or third time, but what's the need for the others? And then it was a cop-out response, like, I don't deal with that department, I don't know what they do. Well, you are on social media, you are seeing everything. That is not the response that people were expecting. And a lot of the responses were cop-out. But again, I understand why they have to be, because he can't shit on the company he's working for. Not publicly anyway. Maybe behind closed doors he can, but publicly he can't do that. So the fact that he did this, and like a caller actually said, you are the wrong person to be doing this conversation, to be having this conversation. You are not the right person because you are not in the position where you can critique. You can only say to a certain degree, but then you kind of have to rein it in because you can't speak bad about a company that pays your salary. And I appreciate that, but I also appreciate the fact that he had that discussion. He opened the forum, had callers jump in. A lot of people were respectful. And I appreciate what he did there. I think it was good. I think it was a nice dialogue. It, maybe showed him a little bit of the frustrations people were having. I actually turned around and told him that it's the scrutiny that Xbox gamers get. If an Xbox game is available at the same time, Xbox games don't get, they are judged more harshly. And the joke I made in my stream, I said it to him as well. Even if a game is 100% perfect on Xbox, the reviewer, at least this is the perception that Xbox gamers have, will do their damnedest to go across the map anywhere, even out of bounds, to find that one rock that has a low texture to give it a 4 out of 10. And even though that sounds really stupid, I think I speak for everyone when I say this is the general mindset we've actually reached right now. Because that is how it is. That is the perception. It isn't a case where, things are overly just handy-dandy and we're just over-exaggerating. You can see it in social media all over the place. If it's an Xbox game, I mean, just look at the Starfield hate alone, with Eurogamer, with PC Gamer, with Metro. And, he tried to downplay the Metro thing because it's readers writing in. It doesn't matter. It's still getting authorized by someone to go out into the public. At the end of the day, it's still media. There's no reason to downplay it. We are seeing it all the time. I even turned around and told him one of the ones that I read for about Modern Warfare 3, where I think it was PC Gamer said Microsoft's first outing. And I said, did they actually, from conception of the idea to development, QA, gold, do that in 23 days? That doesn't sound right? It's not a Microsoft game, but yes, Microsoft own Activision now, so they kind of, but they don't deserve the credit for that. They don't deserve the hate that it's getting for it. It's an Activision problem because they're the ones that had this done before. But the whole, now that it's an Xbox game, means that it's getting scrutinized even more. These games, as soon as it's got that Microsoft branding on it, gets scrutinized more. And that is the problem. That is the issue. And this is where, in my opinion, the Xbox tax or bias lies. The media is very upset right now with the term Xbox tax, and they are doing their damnedest to try and change that narrative. They are. A lot of people are now jumping out, like I've just shown you with Nibs and Joker, who are influencers, and also, IGN jumping out. I mean, are doing their damnedest to try and change the narrative. You've got other publications also trying to change the narrative. If it didn't matter and it wasn't true, why would they care? That is the question. Because if you want something to disappear, if you want something to just fizzle out, you stop talking about it. The fact that PlayStation fans don't stop talking about Starfield and continue to bash on about it is because they don't have it and they want it. And the fact that they can't have it, so they choose to bash it. It's that simple. If you want something to disappear, you stop talking about it. Who's talking about Fallout 76? Who's talking about Anthem? Who's talking about Avengers? These games were colossal failures in their own right? I know Fallout 76 has improved, but at the time of their release, these games were colossal failures. They were talked about for maybe, 6 months? And that was it. It was done. But we've got stuff being talked about from 2 years ago still. People are still dogging on about the Halo Infinite original showcase with Craig. Do I need to say more? The Xbox bias is there. The industry is biased. Now that's not to say that the tables weren't reversed during the 360 days. They probably were. Because back in the 360 days, though social media wasn't a big thing, I never really saw that much of a negativity around Xbox because they were winning. It was PlayStation that was taking the heat. So what does this tell us? This tells us that the media doesn't give a shit about PlayStation, doesn't give a shit about Xbox or Nintendo. All they care about is the winning side. And if the winning side is PlayStation, they will cheer it on as loud as possible. If it's Xbox, they will cheer it on as loud as possible. So what is the next course of action? Phil Spencer has to step up his game. The quality of the games being released are not there. I know some of you may find this really hard to hear, but they are not there. The games are good. I love Starfield. I'm not a big Forza Motorsport fan, but I'm a big Forza Horizon fan. I like my racing games, but I like them arcade racy. Redfall, I've recently got back into. I'm really enjoying. And yes, Steve, I know we still need to hook up with that multiplayer. Maybe on stream next week. But, at the end of the day, it's in Microsoft's hands to deliver games that are unquestionably amazing. Hopefully Hellblade will be that game and it will showcase. But we're not going to need just one Hellblade game. We're going to need a few of those to change the narrative. The standard of quality that Xbox has released has been good, but good isn't enough. It needs to be phenomenal. They need to come out with games that are blinding and brilliant. Great storytelling, amazing graphics with mocap, amazing voice acting. I'm talking, visual displays of Death Stranding. We need quality like that in order to tell the rest of the world we mean business. But releasing a game in Redfall state isn't going to cut it. As for, Starfield, it's good, but it isn't without its problems. I mean, that's where I'm standing with this. I'm not saying it's Xbox's fault entirely. The media definitely has a thing to play here. But the reality is, the media is only going to back and give that biased treatment to whoever's winning. We saw it in the 360 days, and now we're seeing it in this next era where Sony has been dominating. Microsoft needs to sort that out. Get some exclusive third-party games onto Xbox, make it a timed exclusive, get those consoles selling as well. Because those consoles need to sell in order to get those third-party publishers to want to release games on your platform. But that's a discussion for another day. But, at the end of the day, the tax is real. But should it have been called an Xbox tax or an Xbox bias? I think the bias is more accurate. but tax just sounds better. But the media doesn't like that. So now they're banding together to try and change the narrative. The fact that they're trying to change the narrative means that there is a tax. There is a bias. They know about it and they are trying to hide it. But the fact is, like I said, they will only follow who's winning. And if Microsoft changes turns the tables around and becomes number one again, and by the next console takes the lead, the media will start to praise Xbox instead of PlayStation. It's really that simple. They are literally that fickle, that shallow. All they care about is who to promote when they're winning so they can make more money. But hopefully this bias thing will change. Phil and Sarah will step up and kick these studios into gear. Gear 6 will hopefully be the game that we all want to see, because I think that a lot is riding on Gear 6. To look great, have a good story, have an amazing gameplay, and just deliver a smashing experience. But time will tell. But the ball and the court, the ball is in Microsoft's court. At the end of the day, Microsoft has to deliver. And as long as they are delivering, the media can't say shit about it. That's it. That's my thoughts on it. Remain legend.